So, welcome to another episode. Today we have Nico Lagan on, who is the host of the Political Orphans podcast. So, welcome to today's show, Nico.
What's going on?
So, what made you first of all get into politics? Obviously, it is a big space, and people want to make a difference. But what was it for you that really pushed you towards that uh, living or purpose, as it were?
COVID. I I'm a sales engineer by trade. I worked in the telecommunication field for 2 decades, and during COVID, they wanted me to get vaccinated. I said no, so I lost my career over it. And when I took the decision to not get vaccinated, I sat down and I looked at what my transferable skills were, and I figured that there's not much difference trying to sell expensive services to clients and selling myself to an audience. There's no difference between the two. You're both selling yourself. And yeah, that's when I started creating content. And politics is just something I've always been interested in. Politics derives from culture, culture derives from politics. It depends how you see it, but it's one of those topics that everybody has an opinion on, and you'll never run out of stuff to talk about.
No, I like that. I mean, I'm unvaccinated as well. I had a similar viewpoint to you, I think, with respect to what the vaccines were and the fact that it wasn't really a vaccine in respect of the normal guise of one. Not that I lost a job over it. I think we were probably a lot looser in our mandate, should we say, over here than maybe you guys were, given obviously being the United States, as an example. But it's quite an interesting point you made there about what's the difference between selling a service to, a big corporate or maybe a car to a regular Joe Schmo? And I like the idea that you said about selling yourself because I'm a strong believer that, especially in today's day and age, it's about yourself as a brand
Mhm.
nowadays. And you see that across the board from yourself to a president or to Charlie Kirk, for example.
What makes you great is being able to be relatable, is to be able to connect with people, to show them that you're truthful, that you care, that the person that they're seeing is authentic. And there's no difference between selling $1 million contracts and creating content. At the end of the day, I was never the most technical guy. I was never the best sales guy. But one of the things that I make sure to do is I did a lot of NLP certifications. Like half the books behind me are either on psychology or NLP. So I did a bunch of certifications just for fun, just so that I would get better at creating rapport with my clients. And I was one of the most successful, if not the most successful guy we had at my jobs. Not, again, not because I was the best salesman, not because I was the most technical guy, but because I cared and I got to know my customers. I cared, and I really wanted our services to work for them. And there's no difference with creating content. You need to realize who you're talking to, what matters to them, and once you know how to relate that message, make it relatable, make it authentic, make it a message that resonates with them, that touches them, sky's the limit.
I think that's an interesting point as well. And I'm very much the same. A lot of my, not necessarily books, but things that I read, psychology, philosophy, things like that, that help obviously you understand your own mind. And it's interesting that you said about most of your books being in that space. And a lot of the time, people think that, understanding these psychological methods like mirroring and getting people to say yes and things like that is a bad thing. But for me, it really depends where that's coming from. If you're a dishonest person and are using those techniques to drive a dishonest message, then yes, it's coming from a bad moral standpoint. But if it's for good reason, if you're trying to use that to make your child better, for example, people often say to their child, "Oh, you're so messy, you're so messy, you're so messy." Actually, that makes them more messy. It's been proven that if you show that or display that self-image to your child, they are more likely to become messy over time. Whereas if you say to your child, "Thank you for being so clean," or "I thought you were cleaner than this," they will then conform to that idea and try and prove you right or wrong, if that makes sense. So, what are some of the key techniques that you like to use, and how do you use them to get across your positive message?
Before I answer your question, I just want to mention Bruce Lee said that you should never speak ill of yourself because your mind does not know the difference. So what you're talking
Really?
about that is exactly right. And mirroring, when you think about it, is a beautiful thing because it exposes the fact that we just want to belong. We want to be part of a group. And that's what mirroring is all about, is to reflect you back at you through me. So I match the cadence of your speech. I use words that make sense to you. I lean in to see if you're mirrored, if you are leading in as well, if we guys are in sync. So it's all about relating a message in a way that makes sense to the person you're speaking to. Why wouldn't you want to do that if you care? Yes, it can be used by the wrong people, but at the same time, that's how we are. We want to belong. At the end of the day, that's all mirroring is about. If we didn't care to belong, we wouldn't care. Mirroring wouldn't work. So we're meant to care. So I want to be naive maybe on this one and say that I think the vast majority of people that do NLP are for the right reasons. They will mirror people because they do care. But you're right, it can be used in a bad way. It's very easy to use that in a bad way because it is powerful. It is extremely, extremely powerful. Now, I think your question was along the lines of how do I, you know what? Let me re-ask your question because I think I went off track here. I just wanted to mention that first.
Well, I mean, it's sort of going in the right direction, really. It's how you're using those techniques and what's the message that you're trying to overlay with those techniques, if that makes sense. Because those techniques are the key to the door, aren't they? They help you open the door. But what is it that you're trying to push through that door? Whether it's some of your political views on the podcast, or you mentioned your social media strategy as well.
You know, if you look at it, I'm trying to resonate with people. Right now, what my main goal is to show that whatever political party you believe in, they're all corrupt and they all work together. They want you to believe that they're separate, but they're not. They're definitely not. They all are part of a group that you and I are not part of. And that's all that matters to them. So that's what I'm trying. Most of my content is towards that. That's why I record with a liberal every day. Not because I agree with him, but because I'm trying to show how much commonplace we actually have. There's a lot of things that I don't discuss with him because they're part of the 20 or 10% that we will never agree on. So instead of always be yapping about what I don't agree with him on, we focus our energy on trying to find a common place where we do agree. And often that's the funny part. After about 6 months, because I've been recording for about 6 or 7 months with him, 5 times a week, 2 hours a day. And one thing we've come to realize is that we agree 90% of the time that there's a problem. It's the way in which we would fix the problem that we often disagree on. But most of the time we agree that there's a problem. So instead of focusing on, let's say, the 10 or 20% that we don't agree on, we focus on the 80. And that's all I'm trying to do with people at the end of the day, is to show them that the political parties don't care about you. They're representing two different sides of an aisle. But if you look at the bell curve, something like 65 to 70% of people sit somewhere in the middle, left of middle, middle, or right of middle. So we're a lot more alike than we aren't. And that's what I try to bring in every single piece of content that I have is just I'm just trying to be common sense. My opinions might be outrageous to a lot of people, but often those people, I'm not trying to convince them that I'm right because there's no way I can. Like, I literally just came back from recording an episode with a lesbian, a lesbian mother that is in a relation that is married to a woman, and they're raising a son together. As someone that's a conservative Christian, I'm like, this is wrong. But I didn't even approach it from a religious standpoint. I approached it from facts to say, listen, if you look at all the studies out there, the kids that do the best are with a father and a mother in the household. That is a fact. You can debate me all you want. I'll show you all the studies to show you the numbers. Not only is that right, but single mothers do a terrible job at raising children. And I say this to women all the time that a mother cannot teach a boy how to become a man, but a father cannot teach a little girl how to become a woman either, because this is not who we are. I'm meant to help my son to become a man by example, but my wife need to teach him emotional intelligence. That's a fact. So I went to debate her not on a religious standpoint because she would have never agreed with me, but we debated on what is best for the child. And this is what I try to do every day. It might sound outrageous that I don't think that lesbian and homosexual couples should be allowed to adopt or have their own children, but it doesn't come from a Christian standpoint. It comes from, look at the studies. Why would you want a kid to start at a disadvantage when they don't have to?
Yeah, correct. And yeah, as you said, with regards to studies, most of the people imprisoned in the United States come from non-father households, and that's mathematically
That
proven.
abuse drug, that quit school, that are in the streets, that are homeless, that are in prison, that have psychological problems, that have mental illnesses, that are not doing well in life in general. It's something like 80% comes from from a place where a father is not present. And if you look at the US numbers, you're looking at around 70 to 90% of divorces are initiated by women, depending on their education level. The more educated they are, the higher chance they're going to divorce a man. And 90% of single parents are women because the system in North America, both in Canada and the US, family court are heavily, heavily skewed towards the woman. Like everybody believes that a kid needs their mother, yet the numbers are showing the complete opposite, that the 10% of fathers that are alone to raise their children are doing a better job at raising them. Not because they're better parents, because most fathers out there understand that if I'm going to teach something feminine to my son or to my daughter, I can't do it. I don't have the tools to show this to my son. So I will find another woman. Doesn't need to be a partner. It could be a grandmother, it could be an aunt, it could be whatever. But I will find somebody to fill up that role to show these to my son. So again, this sounds outrageous to a lot of people, but yet they're facts. But that's what I like to talk about because I don't want to ruin the episode because it hasn't been released yet, and the guy would be very mad if I did. But all to say that I'm normally able to find common ground with everybody because I approach it from a common sense perspective, not from a dogmatic religious standpoint.
I mean, this is one of the key things. I mean, you've touched on a lot there, and we'll try and unpick quite a few of them. But one of the most recent things you just said was about how the benefit is skewed for women. So if women split up, they get half the money, they get the kids, etc. Now, in if you look at psychology, for example, some of the studies done with regards to positive reinforcement, if someone is in a better position or at least equal to what they were before making the decision, what's to say they would make the decision? They are basically encouraged to say, well, actually, I don't know what the rules are like in America compared to the UK, but for example, in the UK, if they split up with their husband, they can get their own house sometimes, and they get 50% of the marital home and the estate, and they also then get predominant custody of the kids. So for them, and they get alimony, as you guys call it, or child support, as they call it here, and they're thinking, well, cool, I'm free. I don't have to submit to my husband. I don't have to listen to what he says, and I can go and have another boyfriend and another boyfriend and another boyfriend, and my husband's sort of paying for this. So it doesn't make sense from a psychological standpoint. And the deeper question would be, well, is it designed like that on purpose to break up the nuclear family? And again, that's something else we could maybe talk about. But just coming on to the other point that you mentioned as well about finding common ground, it's the whole divide and conquer, left wing versus right wing. Let's divide everyone and conquer them that way. And I think you've got a really wise perspective of we have more in common than we have differences. And you mentioned earlier about categories. We have different categories. If I'm a father, I'm a mother, I'm straight, lesbian, bisexual, I am a right wing, I'm a left wing. If we, and you see people's profiles, they list everything they are. And they want someone who is the same in at least 60, 70, 80% of those. But that's really not what life's about. It's about having differences, but also finding that common ground between those people that the elites are maybe trying to separate, if that makes sense.
Just look at Charlie Kirk's assassination is the perfect example. So I covered it extensively over the past week because I knew who Charlie Kirk was. Not that he ever taught me anything because I'm not his target audience. A guy that's 43 years old was not the target, but the 16 to 24-year-old out there, he showed them that it was okay to be conservative. How? By having civil discourse, by showing up to enemy territory and debating people that would hate him. People don't understand that he's been doing this for years now. They just see the end where there's crowds showing up and people are in his favor. That's a very recent thing. He debated people that threw stuff at him, that insulted him. He ended up getting shot for his values. But what I find extremely interesting from Charlie Kirk is when we covered it, I did a live about it with 5 other people last week when it happened, and I thought that it would further divide the right from the left, that it would cause the chasm that's already existing to be furthered. But you know what I've noticed, and that is both Canada and the US, what I've noticed is that the left and the woke left, so the common sense liberals like my co-host, and the woke left that is recording it, like recording themselves on camera celebrating the assassination of someone because they didn't like them, they're looking like the left, the common sense lefties are looking at the woke, they're like, excuse me, that is not okay. And it's reported that in the US and Canada, there's something like 600, like I heard 600 in Canada alone, but I'll say hundreds, if not thousands of people over the past week have lost their jobs for the videos that they've put online. And you know what's amazing is that as a guy that's ran businesses that had multiple employees, I would have never hired a liberal in the first place because we wouldn't have gotten along. So I know that the people that are running those companies that are firing those people were liberals. They're not conservatives. Those are liberal companies like Microsoft. There's a video that came out. The guy's complaining that Microsoft fired him. Microsoft ain't a conservative company. That's DEI policy all over. The company is a DEI company. The guy was in DEI. He's the one that initiated the department, got fired for celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination. So I thought it would divide the left and the right, and it looks like it's dividing the woke from the left. And you've seen that meme where people on the left, they never change places. It's just that they keep the woke push them, and the conservatives are like, "Hey, we got cookies. We'll take you. Like, come join us." This is happening even further and further. So it seems that the woke left is separating itself. The leftists are separating themselves from the woke. And where are they looking? They're kind of looking across the aisle to the conservative. They're like, damn, maybe you did have a point, guys. And this is what I've been seeing. It's insane. It's a shame that he had to get shot in order to do that. But I think, man, I never said this on camera, but I think he's going to have even a bigger impact after its death than he could ever possibly while being alone. Because it was reported this week that they had something like 1,200 or 13. It was something, let's call it 2,000 chapters across the US, like Turning Point America, high school and colleges. Over the past, I think it was within 48 hours, they got 32,000 requests from 32,000 different schools in the US. I think they had 1,200. Charlie Kirk's goal was 3,500, and they got 3,200 requests in the span of 48 hours because people are starting to get exposed to the message that he was putting out there, because it's everywhere. Even my liberal co-host, he's like, I knew who Charlie Kirk was, but I thought he was a racist, a xenophobe, and all the homophobe, obviously, and all the words and that finishes by "obe." And yet he's like, man, I've been watching a lot of his videos, and he's actually sounded like a good guy. I might not agree with him, but he sounded like a genuine nice guy. And I'm like, yeah. So it's very interesting what's going on in North America right now and throughout the world, because he's being celebrated all over the place. But yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
interesting.
it's one of those things, isn't it? As you said, if he dies a martyr, possibly, and people have there's two deaths, isn't there? The first is when you die, and the second is when people stop talking about. You know, Joe Smith from down the road. After his kids and his kids' kids die, no one really remembers that he worked at a warehouse for 50 years. But some people leave a lasting mark. You Muhammad Ali, Jesus Christ, etc. That their second death hasn't come and probably will never ever come because of the sort of message or mark that they left on society. The woke left. The funny thing is that we've society's come so far, and yet some of the points they make lack common sense, lack the very science that we've established over these thousands and thousands of years. And the other thing that I don't think people really understand about this whole situation is the difference between freedom of speech and freedom of sort of repercussions.
Mhm.
Or, or you could have freedom to say something. I can call you fat, fat, fat over and over again. But do you know what's probably going to happen after a while? You are probably going to punch me in the face. And there has to be an understanding of the difference between freedom of speech and then the freedom of the punishment or the situation that comes beyond that. Now, you could say, well, is it because this person was an idiot, or maybe this person was just too easily offended? And this is why discourse is so important, to actually talk things through without being emotional and erratic. And this is where a stoic attitude is much more plausible.
Free speech is everything. I'm an absolutist when it comes to free speech. There's no gray area. You either have free speech or you do not. There's no such thing as hate speech. Hate speech is another word for censorship. That's all it is. And I don't care that you're a Republican. I don't care you're a Democrat. I don't care you're a liberal, a conservative. I do not want censorship. I don't care which government it is. I don't care if I voted for you or not. Just look at, I don't know if you saw that, but Pam Bundy, the AG for the United States, said a couple of days ago that she wants to go after the people that celebrated Charlie Kirk's death as hate speech. I was one of the first ones to post. I'm like, yeah, no, you don't get to do that. And now she's getting a massive amount of backlash from the right saying, what are you talking about? We've been complaining about Biden for years for censoring us during COVID. Now you're telling us that you want to do the same. Yeah, no, not happening. So it's very, very interesting what's happening in the US right now. I absolutely, absolutely love it, especially the hypocrisy of her messages. Charlie Kirk has been built an audience debating people, civil discourse. He would have been the last person to say that hate speech exists. If somebody faced a lot of hate speech, it's him. Just look at the content he's created. He's been called every single name you can think of. Yet I guarantee you that he would have preached no censorship whatsoever. Let's freedom of speech is everything. Not only that, but he would have preached nonviolence. He's a Christian. He wouldn't have ever said to have violent retaliation. So it's very interesting. They picked, he's the perfect martyr, if you ask me. I called that out the first day. He's perfect. Everybody on the conservative side like him because he wasn't an extremist by any stretch of the imagination. I'm way more conservative than he is. Yet, perfect person to have done what he's done to a point where the left is starting to like him, which is blowing my mind. I absolutely love it.
But I think you're right. It's binary. Freedom of speech is a yes, or freedom of speech is a no.
Yep.
People want to go into this grey area. It's like the so rights paradox. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, where it's how many grains of sand make a mound? You put 1 grain of sand, 2 grains of sand, 3 grains of sand. At what point does it make a mound of sand? Is it 1 million grains? Is it 1,000,005 grains? Is it 666,000, 50, whatever?
Yep.
And this is the key point, because where do you then draw the line? As you said, is that hate speech? Is that hate speech? Is that hate speech? Is that hate speech? Oh, well, if that's hate speech, then that is. But no, that isn't, because it's from this perspective. There has to be a binary, there has to be something binary to lean on, because otherwise there's too much grey, as you said. And some things can have grey areas, but things such as that, I don't think they can really.
And if you look at the Constitution, you have the First Amendment, which is free speech. The Second Amendment are guns, meaning you'll have all the guns possible to get your free speech back if the government goes after it. Those are you want to understand the American Constitution. You have the freedom to say whatever the hell you want, and the government will never censor you. If they do, you can fight them off because you have the weapons to do so. There you go. That's the Constitution. Can you have a most brilliant piece of legislation than that? This is God-given rights right there. I love it. Absolutely love the two First Amendment of the Constitution of the US, and you're seeing it right now. I'm just happy to see that people are pushing back to Pat Bundy, because
But
it would have been easy for cultists that are just following whatever Donald Trump says he can do no wrong to just say, oh, you know what? We need to censor them. I'm not saying that it would have happened, but it could have happened.
But don't you think, so obviously for some time now, for as long as I can remember, for probably the last 10, 20 years, so 1 or 2 decades, there's been talk that the American government, whether it's right or left, predominantly left, of course, we're going to attack the Constitution, we're going to go after the guns, and we're going to go after free speech.
Mhm.
Do you think the
Yep.
Charlie Kirk incident has obviously made these 2 points an even bigger discussion from a government standpoint, saying, well, actually, look, a gun was used, and it's the free speech that caused it? Do you think that's a ploy or something to hold their hat off to try and enforce these kind of changes amongst the American civilization or citizenship?
100,000% yes, but at the same time, you have to know who Charlie Kirk was. Charlie Kirk was a very big gun proponent. He was not an anti-gun guy by any stretch of the imagination. And I guarantee you that if he was alive today where he could speak beyond the grave, he would still believe exactly like I said. Free speech first and foremost, and you have all the guns possible in order to prevent your government or to take back your rights if you're losing them. Take them back from your government, because that's basically what the Second Amendment is.
He
So I
said that
guarantee
though.
you that they oh, of course he did. But you can try to spin it any way you want. At the end of the day, if you want to honor his legacy, you want to honor what he's done, you have to respect the fact that he didn't believe in violence, as in unprovoked violence, as in don't be the assailant, be the one that ends it. So he believed in self-defense, he believed in guns, and he believed in free speech, and he believed in Jesus Christ. That's basically above and above all, he was a Christian. He said it so many times. Above anything else, I'm a Christian, I'm a father, I'm a husband, and then I'm a whole lot of different things. But they can try. It's not going to work. It is. He has sparked something very special in culture, because he is changing culture. Canada, that is an extremely woke country. We are the wokest of the woke here. And we have people getting fired. We have people from government that pass comments, and people are outraged, calling them out to get fired. I would have never believed you 6 months ago that this would happen, but it is happening right now. It's like the pendulum is starting to swing back, because you know what the Overton window is? It's a political term that pretty much explains where the politics of a country is located. And
Okay.
if you look at Canada, the Overton window is all the way to the left. Every single party that we have, even our conservatives that are supposed to be the equivalent of Republicans, are to the left, because they take for granted, like, they will never go against abortion rights, for example. They're not based on religion or Christian values. So they're all on the left. It's just they fight within the spectrum of the left. So our Overton window is so to the left that everything that comes out of their mouth, no matter the political party, is going to be very leftist. So even in a very woke, very leftist country, people are kicking back, as in, yeah, no, you have all the rights possible. You want to celebrate his death? No problem. That's your right. Don't complain when people fire back at you or people fire you because they don't agree with your stance. That is the consequences of your actions. Free speech does not mean lack of consequences. It just means that you can say whatever you want and nobody can stop you from saying it. But that doesn't mean that the market or the people around you are still going to want to deal with you after they know how you really feel or what you really think. Because that's what I want. I want to see the next Hitler rise. I want people to be so comfortable that they will record video or videos or posts about them celebrating somebody's death. I want to see it, because I want to be able to pinpoint those people and say, you're not my type of person. I know what you stand for. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I know who you guys are. There's nothing more dangerous than having people hiding underground because by the time it hits the mainstream, it's too late. There's too many people that are part of that group, and you never saw it coming because they did it behind closed doors. I want people to feel so comfortable to say the dumbest thing you can think online so that I can see them coming.
Well, this is it. People dig their own graves, don't they?
They
And
dig their own grave, they hang themselves, yeah, however, shoot themselves in the foot, yeah, 100%.
and this
100%.
is the thing. And you'd rather people be honest about who they are because, as you said, you can then say, "Oh, yeah, you're probably not the person for me," or "You're not the person for me," or whatever it may be. And I think that's important.
I want them to have all the ropes possible. Oh, you want to hang yourself? Here's a mile of rope, brother.
Yeah.
Just take all the rope you need. I want to see it happen. Yeah.
But and this might sound a bit of a strange view, but I like it when things go bad, when society isn't going as well as hoped. Yes, there's too much of
Yeah.
this wokeness. But what happens is when things go so far one way, people end up hating it, and they start to realize, is this what society is going to be like when we act in this way? And then it doesn't go from, you mentioned the Overton window, was it?
Yep.
Sometimes what happens, instead of it going slowly across, it will just swing all the way the other way because they say, look, in order to reverse where we are today, we have to have the pendulum the other side. And I think that's going to be the case in the next decade. We're going to see, not just within politics, but in many other avenues as well, whether it's the food industry and fast food and things like that, where we've been doing these certain things for so long that it's caused obesity, diabetes, all of these things. And you actually have to say, well, how did we get here? X, Y, and Z. Okay, now we need to have a completely different tack. So when things go badly, it actually gives us a chance to reflect on it and analyze what it was that went wrong, which then allows us to fix it moving forward. Which, you have to be able to see the problem to provide a solution. Of course, ideally, you'd want it always to be good, but life never really works like that, unfortunately.
The big difference between a leftist mindset and a rightist mindset is top down versus bottom up policies. So do you believe that the government should be responsible for telling you what you can and cannot do, take care of you? Or do you believe in the individual to rise by itself, to be based on strong morals, because a society is just a bunch of people that live together, that agrees to live together? I believe in the bottom up instead of the top down, obviously, and that's the switch that should be happening. I don't know that it will happen, but normally, when you believe in the individual before the society, you will see a bottom up, a more conservative way of living. Hopefully, it happens. But like you said, look at what's going on in the UK, because you said you're from the UK, right?
Yeah, yeah,
What happened over the weekend with Unite the Nation with Tommy Robinson?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
what
absolutely.
what that guy did is amazing. Like I've been
Yeah,
following Tommy Robinson for years. Love him or hate him, that dude has balls that I don't know how they fit
correct.
in his
Yeah.
boxers. I don't. He must be free balling it all the time because there's no way. Like that guy got balls. The mainstream media is trying to make it pass like there was 100,000 people
I
there.
was just about to say
I've
that.
been
100%.
I've been to protests that there were 100,000 people. That was not it. Not only did I go to those protests, but I was also right at the protest when mainstream media in Canada were telling people out there that there were only a few thousand of us by showing a camera in a corner somewhere. And I'm literally looking at my phone. I'm like, bro, look around me. I'm looking at the phone. I've been at concerts where there were 100,000 people. That was not 100,000 people. The videos that I've seen and I reposted are looking at least 1 million. Estimates were saying up to
Easily.
3.
Yeah, up to 3 million. Yeah.
That is telling you that they have enough in the UK. We're not there yet in Canada, but man, that was impressive.
I think in the West, people have had enough. It's gone so far the other way.
Yep.
The thing is, when societies do well over a number of period of time, I don't know if you've heard the quote, hard times create soft men, etc.,
Yep.
etc.,
Of
etc.
course.
And
Yep.
we're very much at the state of that where we've had things so good for so long. People start doing strange things, arguing whether there's more than two genders, chopping their own limbs off to change genders and all these sorts of things. Now the problem is with the news, apart from the fact that it's brainwashing, so BBC stands for British Brainwashing Corporation, as they say.
Yeah.
If you read the news, you're misinformed, and if you don't read the
Ah.
news, you're uninformed. So which way do you go? Are you uninformed or misinformed? It's a case of looking at And this is the big thing as well for me. Mainstream media, people don't trust. You talked at the very start of this podcast about trust, and the trust has unfortunately been lost by the majority of, let's call it, conscious people, because we all know that a lot of people are idiots. Yeah, that's just the way that people the world is. Unfortunately, you have for there to be clever people, there have to be dumb people. Just how things made it. For tall people, there have to be short people. Unfortunately, but even within the intelligent people, there were people who were very naive to how things were, and they have been had their eyes open. And even the Charlie Kirk thing, you've seen even more eyes being opened. You've seen the blinkers come off, and it's good to see. And it's come from a bad place, of course, as to the death of a gentleman. But sometimes good things come from the bad, and that's one of the great things about humans is we can take something that's bad, that's gone poorly, and we can use that as fuel to better future agendas. And I think that's what's happening now. And it's something that you did as well, isn't it? Because Nico, you're obviously doing all of these things now, but it hadn't or hasn't always been that easy for you, has it? Given what you mentioned.
Man, I came from making a lot of money to making none because of a choice that I made for myself. You know, they backed me up into a corner where they asked me to choose: will I choose my values or will I sell out? That's basically the question. That was the real question. Are you going to take something that you know you don't want because you want to continue making money, or are you going to stand up for what you believe is right, no matter the consequences? And at the end of the day, I'm happy that it happened because it proved to me the type of person that I am. When shit hits the fan, my apologies, when stuff hits the fan,
You
I
can
know
swear,
where I'm
it's all
going to
right.
stand. Oh, brother, I would have swore way before that. It shows you what you stand for. It shows you what you're going to do when shit hits the fan, when your back is against the wall. Because I lost everything during COVID. I lost absolutely everything. My relationship with my family was gone. Nobody wanted to talk to me. Like where I'm from in Quebec, in Canada, Quebec, the French portion of Canada, the only two places I was allowed to go during COVID was the grocery store and the pharmacy. I could not go to the gym anymore. I had to build a gym in my home. I literally I was living on the in Montreal, right downtown, where all the people were, because all of my clients were there. When when COVID happened, I moved to an investment house that I had in the middle of nowhere, literally log house, middle of the woods. And I went there by myself and I lived there for 2.5 years. My now wife joined me the last year, but I lived in the middle of nowhere with my two dogs, and I just wanted to be left alone. I left society because society didn't want me. So I built a gym at my place. I worked remotely for a little while until I couldn't anymore. And then I wasn't able to go anywhere because I didn't have a vaccination passport. I couldn't take public transportation that I've been heavily taxed for. I couldn't use services that I heavily paid for through taxes. Couldn't go to the restaurant. Couldn't go anywhere anymore. Couldn't teach martial arts anymore either.
That's
So
based. The thing is, that's based because you didn't want to sell your morals at a price. And the problem, again, coming back to what we talked about, the government, never once has anyone at a government level in any country apologized for the fact that they've caused physical distress, mental distress, lied about the efficacy of the vaccines, etc. And it's just been brushed under the carpet and plant pots put on top so no one looks underneath there. And this is the same
you,
government that people are now that still trust and want to vote back in, and people don't understand that, as you said, regardless of the side that you're on, there is another agenda behind the curtains a lot of the time.
it's a very hard pill to swallow for the average individual to believe that your government doesn't like you, that there's no white knight coming to save you. You are basically on your own. Whatever information that's out there, it's up to you to try to disseminate it and understand what's really happening. Because the quote you used earlier, I know Denzel Washington has said that years ago, but if you don't follow the news, you're uninformed. If you follow the news, you're ill informed. So no matter what, you're screwed. But it's a good reflection of culture. It allows you to take the pulse of the culture and see what people believe in. But trying to convince people that COVID wasn't a test, because to me, COVID was a test. I saw it in March 2020. As soon as it happened, bro, I contacted a doctor and a nurse friend of mine. Contacted two people. I'm like, hey man, what's this? Like, oh, we've been dealing with it for a few months. It's going to become the common cold. This ain't going away. There's nothing you can do about it. Just we're going to learn to live with it. That March 2020. Then little Google, and I started researching N95, the mask that they started pushing. How big is the size of the COVID virus? 0.25 micron.
Yes, smaller
the
than
N95 is 0.5. So literally the two COVID viruses stuck together can still pass through. So I'm like, okay, so your face diaper is not serving any purpose. They're lying to us. Like right here, do you see, like right there, I have a tinfoil hat because I am a conspiracy theorist. I will always question what people tell me. And I saw it in March 2020. So there's no way I was taking a medicine
the
weirdest
thing is,
I already knew it was bullshit.
Right? The weirdest thing is obviously the type of technology, one thing, but then the fact that for your vaccine to work, I need to have had my vaccine. What vaccine? Do you know what I mean? I just don't get it. I don't. But have you been vaccinated? But I was like, but you have. If you believe that the vaccine protects you, then why is me not having it? But you need yours. That makes no logical sense. But the problem is, and this is how language can be used. Social distancing. The word social cannot be a distance. So they use words that are like just juxtaposed to make it seem okay. So it's antisocial. To be distanced is antisocial, but they use these words to coerce people into thinking it's okay.
It's called double speak. If you read 1984 by George Orwell, it's double speak. That's all it is. Because you're absolutely right. I never thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right. You cannot be social. You cannot have social distance because that goes against the definition of being social, being away. You can't be away from people and be social. It makes no sense. You're right. I never thought about it this way, but you're absolutely right.
It doesn't make sense. There's a few other ones, but I can't think of them right now. They might come to me. But and this is the thing. People always look at the chessboard. Oh, this person on the chessboard is an issue. The queen or the pawn or the rook. They're the ones that are causing the issue. But sometimes they don't realise it's the person on the chair controlling the chess pieces that's the problem. But because you can't see these people, then you can't really pass comment. And yes, you can look at, and this is another thing. A lot of people's views are, including myself as well, and I don't know if yourself as well, but it's always based on secondary and tertiary evidence. Someone else did the research, and you're reviewing all of these sort of peer reviews, etc. Most of the time, people don't actually have primary evidence, but that's all we can go on a lot of the time. So you still have to have an element of pragmatism with what you're reading, try and look at it from different angles, etc. And
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right that most of the research has been done. You can just analyze the research. That's why it's important to look at everything you can find out there, no matter the political opinion behind the person that's producing that research. But it is true that it can be heavily skewed. It can be controlled in making you believe that it is a certain way. But at the same time, I think common sense is so important. There are things that speak against nature, like telling me that a woman can have a dick. Like, you can show me all the studies you want. I don't care. There's no way you'll ever be able to convince me that a dude is a woman, because it ain't. It ain't.
I mean, it's strange because certain things are seen as mental health. You know, if you've got schizophrenia or ADHD, etc. And if I said to you, Nico, I'm going to chop my arm off, buddy, you'd probably say, are you right there, mate? But then when it comes to genitals, for somehow that's different. And, you know, and coming back to what we were talking about earlier, society is a collection of individuals. And you talked about bottom up versus top down. If we want a society that is in better physical shape, more intelligent, more empathetic, more as you said, looking at the commonalities between people, more positive, you need to start with yourself. if you're all of those things, you're the one with the six pack, you're the one that's well educated, you're the one that helps other people out, you're the one who goes and lives in the woods and sticks by your morals because you're not willing to sell out for, you're not a shill essentially. But people are too scared to do that. They're looking for someone else. Oh, someone needs to sort this out. Someone needs to do this. Well, maybe take it upon yourself, as like the Spartans and a few other people. Pick me. I will be the one to cross the bridge. I will be the one to fight whoever. And this is the key point. But unfortunately, society has gone kind of soft, which, as I said, might be a good thing because it might be the inverse at the next junction. But all we can
It's
do
the
is talk about
fourth
the issues
turning
now.
theory. But the fourth turning theory is what you were describing earlier. Hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times, and it goes and it goes and it goes. But the theory called the fourth turning is exactly what they talk about. It's cyclical. Unfortunately, we don't tend to learn from our own mistakes. We don't tend to learn from history, and it's something that tends to repeat itself every 80 to 120 years. Considering the last real men were at the end of the Second World War, so you're looking at like 1945. We're pretty bang on. Like, we're pretty bang on right now to be at the end of that cycle. So I'm not surprised by what's happening, because it always happens. Almost every single 80 to 120 years, it happens. So that's where we're at. It's going to get worse, a bit worse, before it gets better. But it's needed. If you look at society today, there's so many people that wouldn't have survived 100 years ago that are living. And I would say that it's probably the vast majority of people that are alive right now could not live by themselves. And that's where the analogy of the Matrix is so important, is people are so plugged in the matrix around them. And I'm not saying that we live in a simulation, although I'm not saying we're not, but we're so dependent on everybody else that we don't even understand how dependent we actually are, because we've never had to rough it. We've never had to really dig deep, and that's the average individual. But if you look at the people that succeed, if you look at the main people out of our society, they normally all have a commonality in their background, as in they know what suffering is. They've been at the bottom of the pit where they couldn't dig any longer. That's where I found God. I became a Christian in the dark hole, but when I was by myself in the woods, which, like, what the fuck am I doing now? That's where I found God. You don't find God when everything's going well. You find God when is going wrong. But that's the problem. Today we have a bunch of people that are privileged, so privileged, they don't even understand how privileged they are, so they have to invent problems that don't exist in order to make them feel important. But the truth in the matter is that if society collapsed tomorrow, the vast majority of people wouldn't survive. And the question is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is
Yeah.
that what we need or don't? Because I don't wish death on everybody, but I'd be okay. I've learned how to survive, but the average person have not. It's going to be a bloodbath if we ever get to that point. But do we need to go there or not? That's the question. But I guarantee you it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of quotes that I want to state. So the first is J.K. Rowling said something like, "Rock bottom was the best. It's the best foundation to start your life again." That's number one. Another one is Dostoevsky. It's about the God thing. The darker the night, the brighter the stars. The deeper the grief, the closer is God. Which is a great way that, as you said, this is when you get the belief of that you can push through. And the problem is the safety nets. Back in the day, there was no safety nets. If you failed, unfortunately, you died, and that's where survival of the fittest came in. You failed. No, unfortunately, you cannot reproduce anymore, and it was the stronger and stronger built. It's like natural eugenics, if you want to call it that. What whether it's natural selection or natural eugenics, whatever it's going to be called. Now, unfortunately, and there is benefit to this, of course. I'm not saying it's all negative, but the safety nets, people aren't allowed to fail too far anymore, which has got its benefits, of course, because typically, and it has been shown, that generally there is a correlation between poverty and crime rates, of course, but there still has to be some level of ability to fail in a way that's going to because you can only really do good things out of two ways: inspiration or desperation. Now, most people aren't inspired, so therefore they have to be in a desperate situation where they need to work to pay their bills. Inspiration comes more, it's harder to come by than desperation. A lot of people are in some ways desperate situations, and it's like the some people like the carrot chasing, and some people need to be hit by the stick. It's the same. Some people need inspiration, some people need desperation, and as you said, there can be a little bit of both. But in terms of the extremes, and maybe we do need to put people through harsher childhood in some respects, and not necessarily like too harsh. But I remember watching some of the videos back here in America, for example. Every kid would have to do the obstacle course. I don't know if you've seen this video.
Yep.
They're all doing pull-ups, they're all doing press-ups. All the kids are in great shape. And they used to say, look, you're the strong one. You used to get, got, I don't know what, it was like colours, but let's just say gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal. So there was a competitive nature. Whereas for kids nowadays, there's no medals. They all get participation trophies. It's not a meritocracy anymore. It has to be a meritocracy in order for society to grow, not inclusion, not to say, look, I'm of the minority, but I still wouldn't want to get the job based on a quota that they need a certain level of Asian people. That's just diluting society. You need to have a meritocracy basis and say, well, yes, are you the best man for the job? Because ultimately, you want the best service, you want the best mechanic. So why then, if you want the best, aren't you willing for you to give the best as your own business as well? It just doesn't make any sense.
That's the difference between opportunity of equal opportunity and trying to to control the outcome.
Yeah, yeah,
You want equality of opportunity or equality of outcome,
correct.
which we are living under equality of outcome, which is absolutely ludicrous.
But equality
Ludicrous.
of
You know what?
outcome.
It's not fair that I'm only 6'1" because I couldn't play basketball. It's not fair. It's not fair, but that's a fact.
No, but the thing is,
It's just a simple. But it's a fact of life.
yeah,
There's people that are short. There's people that are tall. Guess what? If you're 5'4", you ain't playing in the NBA, bro.
but you can be a jockey,
That's a
bro.
fact.
But you can be a jockey. And the thing
You
is,
can be a horse midget.
yeah, but the thing
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
the
yeah.
quality of outcome that they want to generate is actually unfair
Mhm.
because you're promoting these people and giving them preferential treatment, which inherently makes it unfair, although it's classed as fairness. There's another one of the social distancing things. Use
Yep.
the word "this is fair," but actually it's unfair by definition. It's one of the ways that they use this coercion to try and create a thought a thought process across a society because it's very much the case, as you said, we want to be like other people, we want to fit in. And if a lot of people think in this way, it's like the Ash study, the psychology Ash study, I don't know if you've seen it, where they drew lines on a wall. So they drew A, B, and C. And they say, or maybe it was four lines. And they basically had actors in the room. Everyone but one guy was an actor. So they said, which two lines are the same? A and B were clearly the same, and C was massive. And people say which is the same as A. All the actors said C, and they tested the conformity rate. Most, like a lot of people conformed to say, I don't want to look stupid. Let me say C when it's clearly obvious. C is double the length of A, but only the headstrong people said, yeah, A and B are the same, and all of these guys are wrong. It takes a certain person to do that, and over time, if you are conforming to this idea because it's fitting in, and etc etc, then over the course of 30, 40 years of your lifetime, you're no longer the person that you should be. You're someone else, and this is, I think, what causes a lot of mental health issues as well. People aren't themselves. They are an image or a persona that other people want them to be. And if you don't want to take advice from someone, why would you take their opinion seriously?
Lack of purpose is why, lack of purpose is a man's demise. If you don't have anything to drive you, what's the point?
So I
If
think
you
it
don't
says
have
that in the Bible,
purpose,
doesn't
what's the
it?
point of living? I have no clue. I didn't make it up. I'm not that smart, so I probably took it somewhere. I don't know where it comes from, but it definitely isn't from me.
A man without a
But
purpose shall perish in Proverbs, I believe.
that only makes sense when you think about it. That's why the Bible is such a brilliant piece of literature. Whatever you believe that Jesus Christ died for your sins or not, I started reading the Bible years ago as a psychological tale, not even as a Christ believer, as just a bunch of stories put together. And those stories, those fables had something to teach me.
Yeah.
It's very enlightening when you're, because can you disagree with that a man without a purpose is meaningless?
No, I
No.
agree. I like a lot of the stuff in. So I've written 4 books, and in my first book, there's a lot of Proverbs-based quotes in there. Now, whether I am Christian is not the point in this. It's as you said, the actual logic within there, and a lot of the sacred books. I'd probably class myself as a deist actually, which is you believe in God, but you don't necessarily believe that God intervenes in life. The rules were set up, but he takes he sort of sits back and lets the rules sort of play out
The
because
popcorn eater.
yeah, well,
He likes popcorn.
basically to an extent, there's a bit more to it than that. But it's like, well, because everyone just basically argues, all religions, and we're not going to go on to a religious tangent, by the way, but everyone argues what the characteristics of God is. Oh, my God believes this, my God believes that, my God believes... That's basically what the argument is. Or Jews believe, okay, Jesus Christ wasn't the guy. Christians believe Jesus Christ was the guy, and then Muslims believe Jesus Christ was a guy, but he wasn't the guy. And it's like, so everyone's arguing about, it's like you said earlier, find a commonality. You all believe in God. You all think that you should be good people. That's more important than the differences within, like, for example, the Abrahamic religion's a story. But yeah, I'm very much into philosophy, looking at like the arguments, like the teleological argument, the watchmaker argument, for example. Um, you know, the problems of evil and all these sorts of things. But here's a good one actually. People say, and this is an argument for theistic. I actually made a video about this yesterday. So people say, oh well, how can people die in earthquakes and natural disasters if the theistic Christian God is real? I was like, well, first of all, the Earth has these tectonic plates. That's always been the case. No one asked you to build your house there. Like if I built my house at the edge of a waterfall and somehow died, I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, God, what? Why did you do that? It's like, well, could you not see it's the edge of the waterfall? So people's arguments for and against God, for me, have got like lack of logic a lot of the time. And philosophers have looked at this for thousands of years, and they've come up with some pretty good stuff. Pascal's wage is another one, and he you know the mathematician that made the Pascal's triangle. He basically said
It's
something
free. It's
like,
free will. It's all about free
yeah,
will.
pretty well, yeah.
What do you want? Do you want to be able to choose your destiny, or do you want to be an automaton? That's what it comes down to. If you want to choose your destiny, guess what? There's people out there that are not nice. There's people that are evil out there, and they will do evil things. And you know, one of my favorite saying is, "There's a spiritual war going on right now. Like it or not, you're involved."
Absolutely.
So, do you believe in free will, or do you want to be an automaton? That's always the same question I'm going to ask an atheist. If you want to be an automaton, then your life's going to suck.
But there's too many NPCs, aren't there? Non-player characters. You know, like you know what NPC is.
Yeah, yeah, there are, but they are playing. I don't think non-playing characters exist. They're all playing. They
But
just
no,
don't realize that they're playing.
yeah. This is it. Yeah, yeah. So they're playing, but it's not an active role. It's a passive role. It's like, oh, you go and work at, you know, it's like when you get to play. Well, I don't really play games like that, but you know when you like you're on a game and there's a guy just standing behind the till and you've got this
Yeah,
mission. You know, it's a whole hero's journey, isn't it? The Joseph Campbell, I think it is. You know, you go on the journey, you go out of the unknown, and you get a mentor, and you go to the rebirth, and you come back with something. Most people don't go on a hero's journey, and it doesn't have to be like the films, a physical, geographical quest. It can be metaphorical, internal as well. And people don't get that. They want an easy life, but then complain that they aren't in the position that they want to be. And look, even if you try very hard, you do very well, you might still fuck up.
you will. It's not a matter of if;
No,
it's a
no, but
matter
as
of
in,
when.
like even if you do all the right things, you still might end up fucked at the end of it. But at least you've
Yeah.
done the right things, and at least you've learned, and it's the character that you've built along the way that's important.
Did you? Are you going to leave this place a better one or a worse one?
Correct.
Was the earth better with you in it or without you?
It's funny you say that. I actually made a literally video again a few days ago about that. Leave things better than you find them is a great, as you've just said, a great philosophy to live by. And most people don't.
Most people are not self-aware. That's what it comes down to. The reason I always try to find commonalities with people, even though I don't agree, is because I'm very self-aware. I'm aware of what I believe in and I'm aware of what other people believe in. And I fully know that going in a heated debate with someone is not how you change somebody's views. I've been on some of the biggest platforms on the planet to argue. I was on Jubilee Media's Common Ground with feminists, and I was not talking to feminists. Everything that I said, as much as I was talking to somebody directly, I was talking to the people behind the camera. I was
Yeah.
not there to change the mind of the feminists, nor was I there to debate with them. I was there to show the different side of the story to the people that would eventually watch that video. And that's what's important, right? Know your audience, know who you're talking to, but find common ground with those people, because if you don't mirror them first, they will never listen to what you have to say.
So
Now look at that, bringing back the beginning at the end. Pow.
yeah. So common ground is something that you mentioned quite a lot.
Yeah.
And for me, that seems to be one of your sort of core front of mind beliefs. What would be another one to sort of help round this off?
So, sorry, one
So
of my
one of
strong beliefs.
no, so one of your core sort of beliefs, and beliefs drive us, don't they? You know, if your belief is that you want
Yep.
to be fit and healthy, you're going to act in a way where you go to the gym and you do Muay Thai and all
Yep.
these things. And for me, your sort of subconscious or uh, fundamental belief is to try and find a common ground with someone. Try and, instead of arguing, find something common. And you mentioned that at the start, and you've mentioned that sort of throughout. Is there another conscious thing that you do similar to that, or maybe different, that you try to instill into your daily life and daily speech and daily discourse as well?
Be kind to other people, help other people. This is the thing that is extremely. I was a Buddhist. I found Christianity through Buddhism. I was a Buddhist for 12 years. 12 years. Yeah, about 12 years before I found Christianity. But the big difference between Buddhism and Christianity is Buddhism is self enlightenment. It's extremely selfish. When you break down Buddhism, it's all about you. It's all about you becoming enlightened. It's not about being a better person for others. It's be a better person for yourself, because your goal is nirvana. Your goal is to be more enlightened. But you look at the Christian faith, if you look at the original Christians, they were recognized for helping others, for helping people that did not like them, for helping just to serve others. How many people have I recorded content with that we were talking, they use the word serve, and I'm like, so you're a Christian? They're like, yes, but they never talk about it. But you cannot take away that word. That word does not exist in any other religion outside of Christianity. This is why it's so powerful, because you're there to serve others. You're there to help others. Helping others will make you a good person. This is how you show the type of person that you are. The man that I believe was God gave himself up for the sins of others. Can you imagine having that type of story and trying to be like that guy? Because at the end of the day, that's all I try to be. I mess up all the time. I will continue to mess up, because there's only one perfect person that ever walked the earth, and it's not even fair because he was God. So it's not even fair. That means I have no chance of being perfect. But if I try to be like Christ, because that's all Christianity is supposed to be about, is be more like Christ. How can you go bad? I don't even care at the end of the day if I die and it was all bullshit, which I know it's not. But for devil's advocate, let's play devil's advocate for a second. How would I ever lose?
That that's
How
that's Pascal's wager.
how yeah, so by me being like Christ, I will never lose. I will never lose, because I tried to be better, not for myself, but to serve others, to better the life of other people. There's no losing. There's no losing if you follow the teaching of the Bible. There's no losing. So believe it or not, believe in the Christ or not, just look at the literature and try to be more like that guy. That's it. That's what I want for myself. That's what I want to teach my son.
So serve others, find common ground, and just be an all round good person, and be right wing.
Well, you know what they say. in your 20 in your 20 if you're not a liberal in your 20s, you have no heart, and if you're not a conservative in your 40s, you have no head.
I like that.
So,
I like that.
my co-host always says that he's a common sense liberal. I'm like, there's no such thing as a common sense liberal. It's called a conservative. So, so there you go.
So, any final comments?
Thanks for having me on, man. I enjoyed this.
Yeah, it's been
I
a good
really
chat
enjoyed it.
actually. And it was I tried to not be too structured as well because we go on tangents. It's better than the whole question answer, and I think we went on some pretty good tangents if I'm honest with you. So that was good, and thanks very much for being a valued guest, Nico.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man.
Cheers, man.